Good afternoon. I'm Dan with Four Winds Ancestral Skills. Today I'm joined with my little co-host Gremlin. She volunteered to help me with this video, so I figured I'd give her a shot. Anyway, we'll be talking about hickory nuts, specifically how to make hickory nut milk. We got a lot to do, so let's get started. Now, hickory nuts are an extremely abundant resource, at least out here in the Ozarks. They do grow in varying parts of the country, but if you're lucky enough to have hickory nuts growing in your area, then you might as well take advantage of them. They're one of my favorite nuts just to eat, either raw or roasted, which they're really good with that, but also you can make nut milk out of them. One drawback of hickory nuts, unfortunately, is they are a little bit hard to get to. Once you crack this shell open, the nut meat inside is a little difficult to remove. If you have like a little dental pick or knife or something, crack the nut open, you can kind of scoop it out, but it's kind of a pain in the neck, and they are really good, but it takes a while to get a decent amount of nut meat off. Now, the one nice thing about hickory nut milk is you can take the whole nut, crush it all up, shell and all, boil that, strain it out, and you're left with just the hickory nut milk. So you don't have to worry about picking the meat out and separating the shell and all that. So it makes it a lot easier. Now, this is basically what a hickory nut looks like. There's some variations. A lot of them are bigger, some are a little bit smaller, but ultimately this is more or less what they look like. When you see them out in the wild, on the forest floor, you'll either see the actual nut or you will see something that looks like this. This is the husk that's around it. Now, oftentimes they'll be kind of poking out of there, or the husk will be kind of broken open along the top. And you can just kind of pry it open and get to the actual nut that is in there. Either way, if you do see the husk on them, it's usually pretty easy to remove. If it's not easy to remove, there might be something wrong with it anyway, and it might not be any good. When you are harvesting, kind of same thing with acorns. If you pick it up, it's got holes in it, or it's obviously black, moldy, rotten. Just toss that to the side. You don't want to deal with that. You might be asking yourself, how exactly do you get hickory nut milk? There aren't any udders on a hickory nut. Well, actually there are. You just have to look really, really close. If you look really close, you can actually see the udders right there. There they are, right there. All right, once you get enough hickory nuts, the next step is to crack them open and sort the good from the bad. The hickory nuts have a pretty thick shell, and they're kind of a difficult nut to crack, but it's hard to beat just an old standby of hitting it with a rock. There we go. This is the nut meat inside here. And as you can see, this nut has this meat in all these little chambers here. So that's what makes it so difficult to crack these, and you kind of need a dental pick or something small like this to kind of pull those little pieces of meat out. Now, the one good thing about the nut milk is you can take this and just crush it up. And really that's what you want, fairly small pieces. You don't want big chunks. And I find that these smaller pieces will make a little bit better nut milk. They'll just dissolve into the water a lot better that way. Once you get it all crunched up, just take that and put it aside. Right here is a good example of bad nut meat. You can see there the nut meat on the inside is kind of shriveled and black. So this one's no good. What we'll do is just toss this to the side and keep going. Okay, now that we have our hickory nuts all mashed up in little pieces, we take this 1 part hickory nuts and add 3 parts water. Now that we have that, put this on the fire. We take our mix, we just set it on the fire here. Now ideally we want to simmer it for 30 minutes. Don't forget to stir once in a while. Well, it's been about 30 minutes and it looks about done, so I think I'll call it. One thing, when you are simmering this, what will generally tend to happen are the nut shells will actually sink to the bottom, and on the top you'll get the nut meat. So you can actually skim this meat here off and still use this. The nut meat, of course, is going to be a lot weaker than it would be otherwise because it's been, simmered in this water. So a lot of the fats and oils and flavor are gone. But you can still use this for cooking. Like I said, it's not quite as strong, but it still has a lot of the flavor and it is still really good. All right, we got most of the nut meat taken from here into here separated, so we can use that later for snacking, or if we want to cook something with the hickory nut meat, we certainly can. Okay, next step is to filter this here out. I cut this little piece of plastic so you can see the stuff after it's filtered out. We just take that, same thing, put our shamag over it. And pour it through. And you should be left with a decent amount of the holes in the shells, everything. And there you have it. Hickory Nut Milk. It's that easy. One thing I want to talk about real quick is the ratios. This here is a 3-to-1 ratio water to hickory nuts. And that's kind of where I find my sweet spot for the hickory nut milk. You can do stronger or weaker depending on your taste. For me, I find if you make it stronger than that, it almost gets kind of syrupy and just overpowering. That's not necessarily a bad thing if you want to use it as coffee creamer or, anything like that. This here is kind of a happy medium where I found where you can use it. That's one of my favorite uses, actually, is putting this in my coffee or just drinking it straight. One way you can do that is add, say, a little cinnamon, a little honey, or some kind of sweetener like that. And this is really good warmed up with that. I can't really describe the flavor. There's not any other thing I can think of off the top of my head to kind of compare it to. But it is delicious, especially now the weather's getting a little colder. Cold morning, some hot hickory milk with some cinnamon and honey. Hard to beat. The 3-to-1 is my personal favorite ratio, but let me know what you think. You can always reach me at fourwindsancestral@gmail.com or check out my website, fourwindsancestralskills.com. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you again on the next video. From 4 Winds Ancestral Skills, I'm Dan, and this is Gremlin, reminding you to get out there and make history. Take care.